or who talk about the fact that caste really matters, doesn't really matter, you know, because, we're in the 21st century. What are you talking about? India is sending people to the moon, and, we're doing so many things. We are on the global, economically, we're globally recognized. Our people are doing so well around the world. It cannot be that you're reducing all this to caste. So I want all of us to also reflect collectively to look at this ads that I'm telling you about, and I'm sure many of you have seen it, and many of you must have also experienced it in your families. The other thing that I would like to also say is a personal story I'd like to share. Is that I was looking for a house about 10 years ago in Delhi, the capital city of the country, and I went to different houses. And many of the houses kept on asking us, not indirectly what caste we were, but of course we were dark skinned. We are dark skinned than probably many of the North Indians, and so they kept on asking us. The first question is, "Are you from South India?" Many of them kept on asking us, "Are we Madrasi?" Which I find ridiculous. But anyways, and so we had to say, yes, we are from South India. I'm basically from Pune. I'm basically from Pune, born, brought up in Pune, but my roots go back to South India. And the next question they would ask is, "Are you going to cook non-vegetarian food in the?" So every time that we said yes, we would not be given the house. But this one particular house that we really liked, and the owner used to live downstairs, and the upstairs apartment he was giving for rent, and he asked us these same questions, and a little bit touching on caste, and then suddenly he says, we almost signed up for it. After agreeing that we liked the apartment and everything, we were having these conversations, and he said that, "See, आप तो non-veg खा सकते हैं. You can eat non-veg. You go out and you eat, but don't bring non-veg into my house." So then we told him, I said, "See, uncle, we are not going to force you to eat, right? I'm the one who's going to eat in a house that I'm paying rent for. How does that matter to you?" So what he said almost shook me. It really stunned me. What he said was, "We're using the same garbage shaft. So the garbage that I'm going to put in that shaft is going to mix with his garbage. That is probably a pure garbage, quote unquote." And for me, that was the most ridiculous argument that anybody would give. That he actually thinks that my garbage is so bad that it cannot mix even with his garbage. And to me, that is casteist, because that is so downright. One, I was shocked because I never came across such blatant casteism. Second is, he knew that, from which caste I'm. Obviously, it's either Muslims or mostly Dalits who eat, what he was asking us, the questions that he was asking. So somewhere I was stunned, because even the garbage shouldn't mix, according to him, that he has to have a separate, because we're sharing the same shaft. He could have said, "No, I don't like the smell," or something. Okay, I would have said, fine. But this kind of an argument. And somewhere these things, and the third incident I want to narrate, and then we'll go into the third narrate is of a young girl, a PhD student, who rented an apartment again and started living there. And there was no conversation about caste at that when she rented. And her friends came over and they were conversing about caste, and they were talking about being Dalit, and the owner who lives right next door overheard these conversations and came to her and asked her if she was Dalit. The moment she said, "Yes, I am Dalit," they came, and he came and he actually beat her up. We're still fighting that case in the High Court and the Supreme Court. So somewhere the audacity of, whether it be somebody who's renting an apartment or some facility or service that we're using. One is the audacity of them actually putting us down and saying, this is you because you're Dalit, these are things that you deserve. The second is that just the numbness and the silence of the other people who are watching, society that is watching these things. The response of society that is responding to this kind of is something that is also always shocks me, because if it's a case of violence, we should unequivocally protest against it, say that that's wrong. But even there, even the response to something that's caste based, we are unable to respond to it in the most effective manner. I'm sure that all of us here know what caste is, the four Varna system, the four castes, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and outside of the system lie Dalits or untouchability. We all know that this is a fact in this country. We all know that everything in this country, whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, is run by the fact of what caste you are or where you come from. Many questions that people have always asked me is, why don't you all change your names? Why don't you, just say that you're so-and-so, you give yourselves a name that signifies that you're from a dominant caste. It's not that easy, because caste is so seeped in our cells, in our bodies and in our lives, that just by changing of a surname, or just by changing of or lying about where we come from, is not going to actually, I don't go around saying, I'm Dalit, but still people know that I'm Dalit. People can figure out by my first question, second question, third, fourth question, they know that, where my family is from, what caste I am, where I'm coming from. The system that was created based on, labor, that certain people were doing some work and certain people were not doing some work. But let us remember that the untouchables, or the former untouchables, I don't want to call myself an untouchable, but the former untouchables or Dalits are and were doing and continue to do so the polluting jobs. So let us remember the aspect of purity and aspect of pollution, where we are saying, where they're said that all the dirty jobs, and I find this ridiculous, because the dirty jobs are actually what is keeping the city clean. It is cleaning the streets, cleaning the toilets, all that is actually keeping the city clean. But we somehow want to call those the dirty jobs. So the dirty jobs or the polluting jobs are being done by a certain caste, and they are all Dalits. Almost 90% of them are Dalits. There may be few other castes, maybe OBC, maybe MBC, but mostly they are the Dalits that are. So this purity and aspect of purity and pollution, where somebody in a temple can become only a priest only if he's from a certain caste, and probably a Dalit, or no, not probably, but a Dalit can't, first of all, enter some of the temples, but is not also allowed to do that job of the priest. Because again, if you are born, whether you're doing the cleaning job or not, whether you're going down the sewerage or not, whether you're cleaning dry toilets or not, whether you're, Mela Donawale or the Safai Karmachari, nevertheless, if you're a Dalit, you come from that polluting caste. So the referring of this community is on the basis of that traditional occupation that somebody chose to put on our heads, or somebody said that this. So that has continued, and that's why we are saying this is intergenerational, where probably 4 decades ago, grandfather did the job of a manual scavenging, or the mother, grandmother. Her daughter continues to do, her daughter's daughters continues to do. And that cycle of poverty continues in the family, because it is also intergenerational. So let's not forget that. That is my first point, that the purity and pollution. My second point is the power structures that we have created around this, What are the power structures that we have created around it? That why are we so in our country? We are so, you see people going in the cars and just throwing things around. We dirty the streets. We don't care because we know that there is somebody who's going to come and clean that. These very same people, you and I, when we go abroad, we don't do that because in other countries you can't do that. But you're okay doing it, as long as once you step out of your house, you're okay doing that, or we are okay doing dirting the place because we know somebody's. So that position of power, where I know that somebody below me is going to do the work, so I don't have to bother about it. I don't have to care about it. Somebody asked me one day when I was suggesting that we have to eliminate, not suggesting, but there is a law to eliminate manual scavenging totally, where you totally have to and you have to ensure that they're rehabilitated, they're given, if they don't have the skills, we have to capacitate them, ensure that they get skills. Somebody asked me, what do you know about it, where, they still want to be in that job. They still want to continue to be in that job, because they know that that is their life, that is their destiny. So why are you making such a big issue out of it? I'm really sorry. Tomorrow, would any of you, all of you are young students studying, would any one of you fill out an application to be a manual scavenger? I don't think so. I don't think so. Because in this country, we don't consider that, one, a respectable job. Second, it is done by a certain community. So we go and fill engineering applications and doctor's application. So I told this to that lady, that would you be willing tomorrow that if you're to give that option to your child, who may be a non-Dalit, to say that you're going to go and do manual. Would that be an option? No, it wouldn't be, because it is clearly a caste occupation and there are certain castes who are doing it. So that power hierarchy that we have created continues today, may not be in the same form that it was 100 years ago or 200 years ago, but still continues in several forms. I continue to say this, that people say in cities there's no caste, there's only caste in villages, there's only caste in the... No, it continues to exist in every single sphere across. I'll come to that in my third point. So the first point, the first, second, and now this is the third point. The second is about power. The third is about how we have created. How can I say? Look at the representation that we have in several of these areas. Let's take media, for example. Everybody says that Dalit issues are not significantly covered. We are talking Dalit and Adivasi, if you put us together, it's 25%. If you put the OBCs and the other Bahujan communities, it's more than 70%. You're telling me, let's now take just Dalits and Adivasis. If you're telling me that from the 25% of this population in this country, you are not able to find one person to be on any of the editorial boards in any of the mainstream media, then it's humble. Because there is only 0.0 something percentage of representation from the Dalits in sitting on the media boards. So we have, for the longest time, we have not allowed Dalits to actually get an education. Now, when they've started getting the education, we're not allowing them to enter into any of these spheres, giving excuses. And what are the excuses? We have to ensure that we get representation. And so where they don't have the affirmative action policies, like, for example, media, like, for example, private sector, you don't find representation from the Dalits and Adivasi. So somewhere we are totally, negating it and totally not giving or spending enough of energy in capacitating and bringing representation into these. And therefore, you see that the media has absolutely cast blind. Only in the recent past, in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, mainstream media has started covering issues, that are pertaining to Dalits and Adivasis, and we can see that.